What if I told you the real reason your product or service isn't selling is not due to a lack of demand or credibility, it's because you're selling it all wrong and your sales script sucks. Which is why in this video, I'm gonna give you the exact 8-pillar formula I use to write sales scripts that have made me over 100+ million in sales in only 6 years. And it starts with intro or pre-frame. Get to know them to feel like they are connecting with you. This is important so at the end of the call, they feel comfortable to pull out their credit card and buy from you. Things I like to ask are, where are you from? Do you have any kids? Are you a sports fan? Any vacations you've been on? We want to open them up and get them to be comfortable with us. The more comfortable they are, the easier it will be to get them to see things our way and buy at the end of the call. But it's what we do next that can make all the difference. Discovery. After we've gotten to know the prospect for 5 to 10 minutes, we need to start asking questions to understand the entire scope of the situation. We generally want to understand their exact circumstances so we can give them the best advice possible. Things like, why now? Why today? Why not in a year? Does it matter? Are you ready to move forward today if it's a fit? They don't realize until the end of the call that these questions were specifically asked to get them to commit to taking action and make it harder for them to back out. Now remember, people don't want to be liars or to be seen as changing their minds. We aren't trying to make people do things that they don't want to do. We are trying to get them to commit to changing so at the end of the call, when we ask them to pay, we can reference earlier in the call that they already committed to doing it and should move forward. Number 3, summary. Before we move on to the main meat of the call, we just want to summarize everything we heard to get a tie down or confirmation that we understood everything they said. Now, this is another chance to get them to say a second time that they are committed to making changes and moving forward if everything aligns on the call. The more verbal yeses we can get, the easier it will be for them to say yes when we ask for their money. Number 4, the 3 pillars. Now, this is the most important part of the entire call that most salesmen completely mess up. A typical salesman will start to tell the prospect about the features and benefits of the product or service that they are selling, thinking that if it sounds good enough, the prospect will buy. This is not enough and you will become frustrated if you try to sell this way. The key here is to show both the good and the bad of the service or product. For example, pretend you are selling a fitness program. Most salesmen will simply talk about what the service will provide and what result they will get. This won't work as every salesman the prospect has ever spoken to will also say how amazing their service is and what they will provide. The way to get around this and build more trust is to talk about what bad fitness plans look like and what good fitness plans look like. By doing this, you give the prospect the ability to see a full picture of what bad and good fitness products look like, which makes it easier for them to categorize your service into the good category. The way you do this is by coming up with 3 key points or pillars with the bad guy versus good guy examples. You need to think of what are the 3 most compelling reasons that a prospect will buy. And it's not the features or benefits, it's what makes you different. So let's pretend I'm a personal trainer and I'm selling fitness. So some of the components of fitness is obviously a diet. Could be a workout plan. Could be one-to-one coaching. Could be an app, right? There's all these components that every trainer is going to offer if it's online. So every single trainer out there is going to have some of these components. So trying to sell someone on this at a high price, let's say you want to sell at $3,000, and then Tim over here sells at $50,000. Tim is going to win in this head-to-head if this is all you're going to talk about. And so when we're talking about 3 pillars, we want to talk about what are the key things you do differently. So typically in fitness, what most people want is they want to eat bad, right, and still look good. They don't want to train. And then they want to make sure they hire someone smart. Right? Because they want to make sure that they're working with a trainer who can actually get them to their goals. When I started my first company, it was an online fitness company, and I got it to about $150,000 a month. And the way I was able to get it there was to focus on these components. So my first pillar was how to eat whatever you want without sabotaging results. Now, the reason I said it that way and I didn't say calorie counting or macros is it's my belief that as long as you're in a caloric deficit, you will lose weight. So when I said it this way, I said, look, I'm going to teach you how to eat whatever you want without sabotaging results. Most trainers are going to teach you chicken, broccoli, rice, and yes, you'll lose weight, but you can't stick with it. And I get them to shift their perspective on how they need to think about fitness. You have to give them what they want so you can give them what they need, right? So number 2 was the same thing, but it was how to train however you want without sabotaging results. So same type of thing. Now, it's also my belief that 90% of results is nutrition. Now, training is important, of course, right? Going to the gym, lifting weights, all that stuff is super important. But you could sit at home on your ass and not do anything and still lose weight. And so what I said to them is, look, lots of trainers are gonna have you moving and being active and doing training and cardio and all these things, and that's great. But again, you won't stick with it and it's too difficult. So the goal here is how do we train as little as possible and still get results? And the cool thing is 90% of results is nutrition. So even if you don't wanna train at all, I can still get you in shape. Does that sound good? Now, it's not as good as training, but it'll still get the job done. The way to get them to think about solving the problem. And I'm giving them a solution that's advantageous to what they want. Then going to pillar number 3 is I said, okay, why should you hire me? What I focused on is I said, okay, so you could get an in-person trainer, you could get a program like Beachbody, for example, or you could hire me. I walked them through how to think about it. So I said, look, you can get an in-person trainer, that's great, but they're focused on the training, which is 10% of results, and not on the nutrition, which is 90%. So why would you hire a trainer who doesn't want to teach you what to do? Because if he does and you leave, he loses his paycheck, and they're only focusing on the 10%, not the 90%. Number 2 option is you could get Beachbody. Now Beachbody's cheap, you could get results, but the issue is they give the same program to everyone. So if you're a 300-pound man and you have the same program as a 200-pound woman, that doesn't make any sense, right? So they build it to get crazy results quickly, but you're restricting, you're eating a lot, you're working out a lot, and you can't stick with it, so then you just gain it back. And then you start a new program, and then you lose the weight, and then you gain it back, you start a new program. The reason you wanna hire me is not only am I gonna teach you how to eat the way you want without sabotage results, how to train the way you want without sabotage results, but once you hire me, you're never gonna have to hire another trainer again, because I'm gonna teach you everything you need. So would you rather pay a one-time fee for the rest of your life or $50 a month for the rest of your life? And they're like, yeah, one time, like exactly. So now as I move into the closing, they have already sold themselves based on my ideas. I didn't talk about what they get. I didn't talk about the workout plan or the diet or anything. I just talked about the pillars, the way to think about fixing their problem and make them understand that I am the best person, because the first 2 are a mechanism of how to fix the problem. And then the third one is why they should hire me. And this is where a lot of time has to be spent up front to make sure that your 3 pillars are strong enough to get strangers to buy your service or product. Number 5, brief overview. Now that you've driven home your point and made it clear your service or offer is superior, you can go into a brief overview. For example, if I'm selling a fitness program, I can briefly explain they will get a workout plan, a customized diet plan, access to an app, one-to-one coaching, Zoom calls, etc. The prospect won't care what they're getting. They just want to be able to understand tangibly what comes with the purchase. Number 6, create certainty. Now that everything is on the table, we need to make sure that the prospect is certain they want to buy. After we tell them how much the service or product costs, we lose a bit of our control of the situation. If we can get the prospect to admit beforehand that they are 100% certain, they will buy. This is as simple as asking the question, now that you've heard everything, why do you feel this would be a good fit for you? If they give a positive answer, double down on it and get them to admit they are certain this will be a fit. If they hesitate to give an answer or they're unsure, we need to resolve it then and there before we tell them the price. Telling someone the price who is already unsure if they should buy is a surefire way to ensure that you do not make the sale. Number 7, close. Now that the prospect is 100% certain, we simply tell them the price. So John, the price of the program is $10,000, and shut up. Do not say a word after you drop the price and allow the prospect to be the first to respond and answer. If they say no, it will only be one of 4 objections that you're gonna get. Price, spouse, think about it, or belief. Before we go through the price objection, what's very important is you know the price of your program. Let's say in this example, it's $10,000. You also need to know what's the lowest amount you're willing to charge. What I mean by that is when you're selling a service, services don't cost anything outside of time and fulfillment. The good news about that is it allows you to move the price if someone cannot afford the service. Now you don't have to, but like if you're selling a car that's $60,000, you can't sell it for 20. That makes no sense. In this case, let's say that the lowest amount we're willing to take is $2,500. What that means is if I get a customer and they say, hey Tanner, I really want to work with you, but all I have is $2,500. That is the lowest amount we'll take even if they're acting in good faith, even if that's all they have, because anything below that becomes too expensive to the business. The first step is the close. So, hey John, the price of the program is $10,000. That's the close. John will say, totally get it, Tanner. That's a little too much. Like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it. He objects. Then I'll tell John, no problem. Totally understand. I agree. Then I go to number 4 and I isolate. Is there anything else besides the price that would stop you from moving forward today, John? To make sure it's only a price issue. And John says, no, it's just the price. I get a double tie down. We could also call this a tie down up here. So isolate or tie down. So number 5, just to be sure, if we're able to figure out the price, are you able to move forward? John goes, yeah. I'm like, great. The best way I'm able to help you here, John, is to figure out what's your cash on hand situation? Checking, savings, credit cards, what do you have available today? Not in your, crypto, not under your, mattress, your 401k. Like, what could you use today that's available? It doesn't have to be everything. I just need to know what that number is. He's gonna tell you a number. Now, you don't move forward from this point until he gives you a number. Some people say like, well, I gotta check, my checking. And I go, well, I mean, what do you make in a month? What do you spend? It's pretty much the same every month, right? And I get a number and they'll say, well, I make 5 and I spend 3. I'm like, cool, so you have about $2,000 left over every month. Does that sound all right? Do you have anything in savings? No, I don't have anything in savings. So let's say that the number's below 2,500. He's like, I got $1,000. I go, it's very simple from here. I go, well, look, John, I mean, I can't go that low. Is there any way you could come up with more money? No, I can't come up with more money. Okay, no worries, John, Here's some resources, have a great day. Hang up, that's it. There's not much you can do. Now you'll have sales trainers who say, oh, if the value's high enough, they'll figure it out. It's like, yeah, but we're living in the real world. Like you're not just gonna massively just throw in a Lamborghini for free where they're gonna figure it out, right? This is your service. And if they're that far away from the number, 30 more minutes on the phone, wasting time and energy usually isn't a good use of your time. Now, if he says anything above 2,500, let's say he says 5,000, okay? So we say, what's your cash on hand, John? He says 5,000. This is the part where you seal the deal, and it's very easy. So now that I know that number, I'm not guessing. What most salesmen do is they guess and they just go, oh, you can't do 10, how about 8, how about 7, how about 5, how about 4? And then they lose a ton of money trying to guess how much that person can pay instead of just asking. So once I know this, I say, well, look, typically the price of the program is $10,000, John. Now, based on what you said, you only have 5,000. So 10,000 is not going to work for you, right? Now, I'm down to customize a solution, but before I do, I just want to make sure you can move forward today. The reason you do that is a lot of times sales reps will tell someone the new price, and then they say they have to think about it. So what I do is I say, I'm down to figure something out. I'm down to help you. It's usually 10 grand, which is true. None of this is unethical. I'm not lying. It usually is 10 grand. I'm down to customize something for you because you know in your head, as long as it's above 2,500, you're willing to work with them. But before I do, I want to make sure you'll move forward. Once he says yes, I go, great. So look, I don't think you should do all of it, but I do think you should do something. So I'll tell you what, if you can go ahead and put down that 5,000 today, you come in, you work hard, you don't complain, and you don't tell any of the other clients you got a discount, right? Because I'm trying to help you out. As long as you do those 3 things, we'll go ahead and put that down and you don't have to pay anything else. Does that sound fair enough? And then you close the deal. And what happens is instead of turning away 30% of potential customers and getting $0, yes, you're not getting the full 10 grand, but now you have money for ads, fulfillment, for your team, and you can scale. So this is the easiest way to beat price. It's super, super simple. It's really not that difficult. You just have to be able to walk through it. Spouse. John, the price of the program is 10,000. And he goes, you know what? I'll just have to talk to my wife. What are you gonna do? She says no. So that's the first thing we go to. And he goes, well, probably won't do it. Then I go to B and I say, okay, so what would her biggest objection be? And usually, 80% of the time, guess what they're gonna say? Oh, well, she thinks it's too expensive. So all I have to do is then I just go right back here and go, oh, so it's not that you need to talk to your wife, it's that you think it's too expensive. That's why isolating the objection is so important. So I go, got it. So if we're able to figure out the price, you know she'd be on board and you can move forward today, right? Yeah. And then you just go through the price objection and close. That's 80% of the time. More times than not, it comes back to price if you know how to market well on the front end and have a good application process, which me and my team do. And then C is if he still says no. He's like, I go through this, he's like, Tanner, I get it. That makes sense. I appreciate you. I still can't do it. Then we go to what we call past agreements. Does your wife know you're on this call? Yeah. Does your wife know that you're struggling with this? Yeah. Does she want you to be happy? Yeah. And if the roles were reversed, would you support her? Yeah. Okay. Why would she not support you? Why would she be upset about you doing something that she knows you want to do and would make you happy? And Sherry knows you want to do it. Now, if they still say no, then you go for your final attempt. Now, keep in mind, you never want to lose rapport because it'll hurt your company's reputation, what they think about you, etc. So the last thing you do is then you move into a deposit. And so what I do here is if he still says no, I go, well, John, look, let me tell you what. Are you 51% yes or 51% no? Right? Like if you had to make a decision right now, I know you say you're not ready, but if you had to choose right now, what would you choose? And he's gonna go, oh, I'll probably say yes. Like, okay, cool. So if you woke up tomorrow and you felt the same way you do now, you say, okay, great. So I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead and have you put down a deposit. And then if you go home and you sleep on it and you wake up and you don't want to lose more weight, we'll just say this is a fitness offer. You don't want to lose more weight. You don't want to be happier. You don't want to like change how you look. If you say that, you can use some sarcasm and humor. I'll just refund you and call it a day. Sound fair enough? Okay, very simple. And the good news is if he says yes, you at least get a minor commitment. If he says no, you did everything you could do and then you wrap up the call on a good note. What I'll do then, if they still say no, is I'll say, when will you know by? 10 a.m. tomorrow? Great. And that way I'm not chasing the prospect around. And by the next day, I either get a yes or a no. But 9 times out of 10, when they say spouse, it's actually a price objection. And when you get to here, they're gonna switch. So those are the 2 most common. If you had to drill or learn anything, these are the 2 to learn. Now after that, we have time. If I say, John, the price of the program is $10,000, or think about it. And he goes, well, I need to think about it. Go, cool, no problem. John, you mind if I ask you a question? Do you know what deciding means in life? It's like, no, it means a cutoff. So are we cutting off the future of your dreams or your passive inaction? Because indecision is still decision. So if you're cool with that, I just want to walk you through 3 questions. And then based on that framework, we can actually make the decision right now. You cool with that? Yeah, great. Okay, cool. So the first one is, do you think you're more likely or less likely to hit your goal working with us? Right? Like, do you think you're closer to your goal if you work with us or less close? You're like, oh, closer. It's like, okay, cool. Number 2 is, do you trust us? Do you believe we're going to deliver what we promised, right? Or do you think I'm full of shit? No, I think you will. Okay, cool. And then number 3, do you have resources available or know someone who does? Yeah, I do. Okay, cool. So based on that, John, you actually have all the information you need to make a decision, because there's nothing I can tell you that's going to make you feel 100% certain. But if you feel yes on those, you actually are ready to move forward. So let's go ahead and make that decision. Does that sound fair enough? And then I move them into the close. Now, if they won't do it, that goes into a belief issue, which is the last objection. The only other objection you should ever get out of these 4, if they still won't move forward and you've gone through these objections, the only one that's going to be left is belief. They're just scared. They just don't, they're just like, Tanner, I know, but like, I'm just scared. This is the easiest one to beat. So with belief, think about why someone doesn't do something. They're scared it's not going to work. So if it's a belief issue, I simply just ask the obvious question. I go, what is the worst thing you can possibly think of that's going to happen here? And they're like, well, it's not going to work. I'm like, cool. So let's walk down that path. So there's 3 things that can happen. Okay? So you do the work and it works and everyone's happy. We get paid, you make money, everybody wins. Or whatever you're selling. It's like you lose weight, we make money, everybody wins. Number 2, you do it and it doesn't work and you can get a refund. Now, be very careful depending on how you have a refund clause. If you're doing guarantees in a service offer, you need to make sure it's performance-based. Why? If I tell someone I'm going to guarantee they lose 20 pounds, but they don't follow the plan, they're not going to lose 20 pounds. So you're just going to get a lot of bad clients and then make no money. So the key thing here is that you make sure that they understand that, hey, it's a performance guarantee. If you do all these things and you don't lose weight, for example, be like, take pictures of your food, have 1 call a week with me, track your app every day. Like, you have to do stuff that will force them to get the result. If you don't, the only times you can do money back guarantee, no matter what, is like software or things where there's not actual fulfillment. But anytime there's some type of fulfillment, I highly recommend a performance guarantee. You're gonna get really bad customers. And then the last thing that could happen is you do nothing and then you stay stuck. So out of all 3 of these options, the only one that guarantees you stay in the exact same spot you are right now is C. Because if you do one A or B, you're either gonna get your money back or you're gonna get the result. So let's go ahead and move forward so that we can get you to that place you wanna get to. Does that sound fair enough? And that's belief. And if you learn these 4 objections, because I did door-to-door sales and there were 20, 30, 40 different objections. If you can just learn these 4 objections and you're doing sales calls, I'm telling you, you can sell any product, anytime, anywhere. I hope that helped. Now there's a lot more to making money than just sales. If you want to see how I generated over $111+ million selling coaching, just click here.